All right. Okay. I'm here with legendary Tim Brando doing the call tonight for Fox. Tim, obviously you had mentioned it earlier off camera, but about just how big of a game this is, not only for these teams, but also for the network as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, Saul. I mean, I've been at this for a long time. It'll be 40 years that I've been on national television. January 5th of 1985 was when my start. And so I'm coming up on 40 years. And in those 40 years, there have been some firsts. The first college game day, which most people, especially young people, don't even know. My daughters never saw me on it, okay, and they're 41 and 34. So the oldest was too young to remember watching me, although she did remember living in Bristol for a period of time because we got pictures. But firsts only happen so often. First time a coach coaches at said institution, that debut game, it's a big deal. But Fox is making a move to the Friday night package with these really big games involving Big 10 and Big 12 teams, and they're putting it in a time slot regularly on Friday nights that was previously with the WWE, which at the time when they brought SmackDown in, it was coveted. It was a big deal to get, to try to bring the young audience in, and it was designed to fuel that young audience for their college football portfolio on Saturdays. And it worked well for a time, but when they gave up the rights to it, I think that the executives felt like, hey, college football has never flourished more from a visual standpoint than it has in recent years. It's been a ratings monster. It's by far and away the second most popular sport for television to the National Football League. So putting this game on a Friday night is important to them. And for me, if it's important to them, it's certainly important to us. And Devin Gardner is new to the booth with me. I spent 25 years with Spencer Tillman, which was a joy. But change is inevitable in our business. The only thing that doesn't change in our business is change. So I think the reason they brought Devin in was to give him the kind of exposure on a package like this that will garner some attention. And for them to decide that I'm the right guy to be with him is a compliment at this stage of my life, so in my career. So I'm really excited about it. And in talking to the two coaches, they know that this opportunity on Friday night is going to give them a lot more eyeballs than normal. If you were playing this game on Saturday, and granted, it would still be a top 5 game, but it would be covered up by games like Wisconsin and Alabama and so many other matchups on all the different networks that are carrying college football. The glut of games that starts literally at noon Eastern, 11 Central, or where you live at 9 in the morning and goes until almost 10, 11 o'clock at night Pacific time, is such that games like this could get lost. It won't get lost tonight. It'll be the big game in town, and you've got some stars at the mission-critical positions. Noah Fafita for Arizona, and certainly Avery Johnson, who's the ultimate BMOC here in Kansas. He's already being lauded as maybe the greatest quarterback potentially of all time in Kansas State's rich history. So this is their stage tonight, and it'll be an opportunity for them to take a big step, and for the programs to take a big step into the conversation for the college football playoff. They're ranked 14th and 20th, right on the precipice of relevance in terms of being in the conversation. I think the winner of this game will declare its narrative for the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I know one of the things that has plagued both teams is just kind of the inconsistency on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. When you spoke to the coaches and the teams, what kind of apprehension did they have in terms of one thing or another heading into tonight?
The short turnaround is an issue for a team that was on the road, like Kansas State at Tulane last week. I mean, defensively, they were really out of character. They got lit up by a young quarterback, a talented quarterback, and Tulane's a good team, by the way. Oklahoma might have their hands full in Norman because that's a really good team. But I know Kleiman felt that way about the quick turnaround against a team that's got such firepower. I think for Arizona, the trepidation for them is they didn't play very well offensively against Northern Arizona, and in a lot of ways, the folks from Flagstaff may have given this experienced Kansas State defense a real blueprint for how to shut them down. McMillan was a non-factor. He went from 10 catches and almost a record-breaking performance against New Mexico to 2 catches and 5 targets. Now, they were able to get a couple of pass interference penalties called when they actually shot it his way, which is not surprising. But if you can take him away, that's really Fafita's first read. That's where he wants to go. He's the bread and butter. So I think that's the issue for the coaching staffs coming in. But there's enough firepower out there. I think maybe Fafita understands now that guys like Patterson and other receivers can be factors and to use all the tools that the Wildcats have. So it'll be fun to watch. The big key to me is, will Kansas State's stability on defense? They don't just stop teams. They score themselves.
Yeah.
They got a scoop and score late in the game with Tulane, which I thought really turned that game. Their special teams almost always make a big play for them. They really win in all 3 phases. Going back to Bill Snyder's days, and because you were here, they just don't blow games. You've got to beat them, and that's, I think, the quest for Arizona is to make sure that they don't make the mistakes that almost always serve Kansas State well.
It's funny that you mentioned that about Kansas State not beating themselves, because I do have a little bit of a different perspective, because the one year I was here was the last time that they had a primetime game in the middle of the week at night here at KState against number 4 Auburn at that time. Mm-hmm. And if you recall, Tyler Lockett, the deflection off his chest plate, they intercept the ball, and that kind of turned the tide of that game, and Auburn then went on to win. But tonight, you've been here, I've been here. Explain to these folks the impact that the crowd can have in that student section here, obviously at this stadium.
It's an intimate setting, and it doesn't seat 80 or 90,000, but they're right on top of you. Yeah. And it'll be packed, and it'll be really noisy, and Arizona, from its days in the Pac-12 and playing a lot of those after dark games, you get that feeling maybe at Outson. You get that feeling maybe at Martin Stadium when you go to the Palouse, because they're on top of you there too. They only seat about 33 or 34, but they're loud and they're right on top of you. But when you're playing in cavernous buildings like at Cal or the Farm at Stanford or other places, you really don't have that raucous, huge college feel. In the Big 12, you get it everywhere. And so this is not only I think a sign of what's going to happen to them tonight, but I think it's going to be an introduction to life on the road in the Big 12. There may not be major markets or big brands in the Big 12, but there is a big-time college feel at every location, where you go to Stillwater, TCU, Baylor. All of them they're wired. I call it SEC light, because in college towns like this, where you're the only game in town, it's just a bigger deal to the people. It's part of their culture. And college football is a tribal sport. And if you have that feeling at certain places, and I think you have it at every place in the Big 12, I really do. There's no easy location to play a game. Arizona's going to figure that out when they play here tonight.
Which of the two do you think can have the bigger impact? K-State's offense or Arizona's defense?
I think K-State's offense is really good, but they're just beginning to scratch the surface. DJ Giddens is a great back. I mean, a great back. I don't even think he knows how good he is. Yeah. They have the ability to beat you in ways that past K-State teams did not. And I think a lot of that is because they're not going to get away from their culture, and their culture is to win on the ground. But in Avery Johnson, we're talking about a big ticket, big play guy that has the ability to beat you with his arm in a way that past great K-State teams could not. I go as far back as Michael Bishop in the late 90s, when they had maybe their best chance of winning a national championship. I did the Fiesta Bowl on CBS when they beat Syracuse. Yeah. Donovan McNabb was quarterbacking the Qs back then. That team the following year that returned just about everybody, they lost in a way K-State never loses to Texas A&M in the title game of the conference, so they would have really had a great chance. I think the potential for K-State to have, with Johnson here, if he stays for two more years, I think the chances that they could do that are really, really good. Maybe the best they've been since then. No disrespect to Colin Klein when he was here and was a Heisman finalist, but I didn't think they had the explosiveness that you needed. And the Lockett teams that were really good did not have the explosiveness. Now they'll come with 4 wides or 5 wides and empty. They're doing some things now that they didn't do in the past. So I think Arizona's defense has 2 really good linebackers that better play their butts off tonight. Yeah. And they better not have too many stunts or games and deals, as people say, because if they get out of their lanes in the front, Giddens and those guys will carve them up. I think the quest for Arizona's offense is to use their explosiveness to match. They need a high-scoring game. Kansas State would probably like to keep this game in the high 20s or low 30s. That's the way they like to play. Still ball control it, but I think Arizona needs to win and probably would love to see sort of a pinball wizard game where the scoreboard's lighting up and they get into the 40s, which I think they could do. Fafita is very, very good, and you know, T-Mac is he's the best receiver on the field, but he's probably going to see some form of double coverage, some form of what he saw against Northern Arizona, and that's got to be a concern.
Yeah, it's got to be a concern. I totally agree with you. You know, I think one of the ways that they can beat Kansas State is, to me, they got to limit the run, obviously, but more importantly, they've got to force Avery Johnson to be accurate, and that's something he has struggled with. And Arizona's secondary has been, you know, they're pretty good with Gunnar Maldonado and company.
Yeah.
So when you look at tonight's matchup, the last question I have is, both teams new to the Big 12 in terms of Arizona coming to the fray, and just the excitement of this unique now spin on the conference, and what lies ahead for the school.
Well, listen, Brett Yormark's going to be here tonight. I cannot wait to talk to him. I have great respect for what he's done. You know, they lose 2 of the biggest brands in the sport, Oklahoma and Texas, and what does he do? He goes and procures 4 of the best teams you could out of the American. He gets BYU in, which brings us a holy war. One of the great rivalries in college football will now be played in this league. And without a brand name, without a huge ratings monster team, okay, they have the potential of having the most competitive league in the country. I think as many as 7 teams, really, as many as 7 teams probably think they could win this league. Now, fans outside the Big 12 are like, well, yeah, but it's so balanced, it might be mediocre. There are no great teams. Probably the champion will have 3 losses, in which case it's a 1-bid league. I don't know. I think if you look at what TCU did a couple of years ago when Dugan got them off to that 8-0 start, they beat Kansas State in a game we had to get to 8-0, and then K-State got a rematch, beat them in the Big 12 title game. You know, Dugan couldn't get in from the one. You could have a team that does that, and it could be Kansas State, or it could be, you know, Utah, and we'll see about them. I think, especially with the potential of Rising being out for a few weeks, you know, after his hand injury last week, you know, the door's open. And teams like Arizona, Kansas State, I mean, Texas Tech played poorly last week, but a lot of people do when they go to the Palouse. There are fantastic players all over this league. And I really think that, you know, a club like Oklahoma State is always overlooked. You know, they may have the best back in the country, okay? And I know they just slipped by Arkansas last week, but you know what? Gundy's won more games in this league than anybody over the last 15 years. So it's a wide open conference, and I think the place for Arizona and K-State, regardless of who wins tonight's game, they'll still be in the hunt. Yeah. As we touched on, it's not a conference game because of when it was scheduled. But again, that step towards the top 12, everybody's going to be monitoring that this year. And that's what I think makes the game so important and will bring so many eyeballs from not just the Big 12, but also outside the Big 12 footprint tonight.
Absolutely. I know it's not a it's a non-conference game.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the Big 12 could have kicked this off any better. Besides with these two teams who are kind of relatively unknown on the national scale in terms of what they can actually do. But I think the sky is definitely the limit for both programs.
Yeah, and that's the task for Devin and I and Josh Sims tonight, is for us to introduce the college football world to Noah Fafita and to Avery Johnson and the ensemble of talent that they have around them that could make them special. Because I guarantee you, in today's media of college football, and it's not something I'm really proud of, I think that because there are these alliances between networks and conferences, people think we're all in the tank for the teams we cover. I don't feel that way at all. I've always covered college football in its totality. Yeah, I may not see the SEC anymore, but I, by God, know about it. I spent the bulk of my career in it. So, but these teams, no matter what league they're in, deserve every opportunity to get the same kind of coverage that everybody else does. And I know there's some snobs in the Big Ten and SEC that feel they're the only game in town, but I think the Big 12 is not only relevant, but they're knocking on the door. And last week was a great week for the Big 12. They had some huge interconference wins. So I think they're in a position. Brett Yormark knows that too. And I think he's the most progressive, forward-thinking commissioner in the college game right now.
Without a doubt. Yeah, absolutely. Tim, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck tonight on the call with Devin. We look forward to hearing that. And we look forward to this game because it's the matchup of the year so far for Arizona and for Kansas State. Till next time, appreciate it.
We all silly like the mayor.